The number one aim for most emerging artists is to get added to their first Spotify official playlist. It is so difficult to get your first official playlist, but when you do, that means you're on the radar of the Spotify curators, which means with each release, you will get added to more and more playlists and bigger playlists, so you will get more streams. In this video, I'm going to share with you our 8 tips on giving yourself the best chance of getting added to your first Spotify official. We've secured so many playlists for artists, whether it's New Music Friday, Rap UK, Feel Good Indie, and we've noticed a pattern emerging on which artists get added to Spotify's official playlist, because it's no coincidence what we are seeing is working for these artists. So here's our 8 tips based on our experience on how you can give yourself the best chance. The first one is have a social media presence. I know this is difficult to create content as an artist consistently, but showing that you have a fan base and have engaged followers does hold credibility with Spotify, and there's kind of an interest for them for you to have a social media following and be on their playlist, because if you get added to a large playlist, then you will share it on your social media and tell people to go listen, and people who are fans of you will also be fans of others on that playlist because it'll be a similar genre and style to you. So if you share it on your Instagram story, people will go stream and they'll stream your track but keep listening, and that will get Spotify streams up. But if you've got no followers, then Spotify are less likely to get those streams. And Spotify are a private company. They want to make profit, and they make profit by people using and subscribing to their platform. So if someone wants to listen to your track on Spotify and on Spotify playlists, and they've got to decide whether they use YouTube Premium, Apple Music, Deezer, or Spotify, and they remember that you are on really good Spotify playlists, they are more likely to choose Spotify. And that is why it's so important to have a social media presence. And tip number 2 is have a fully completed about section. Go onto your profile and make sure that it is all up to date and it is impressive. Spotify want to have a good user experience for their users, so they don't want the about sections to be completely empty or just have one quirky line. It's not enough. Have good quality photography and images, have a good about section which says the history about the band, the genre, and also any kind of press or radio, anything that adds credibility to you. Get it in there, because the curators will read it and the users will read it. And make sure all of your shows and concerts are listed on the about section. The curators want to know that they are adding active artists who are taking their career seriously to their playlist. They don't want people to fall in love with your music and then find that you're just not touring or you only release once a year. They want real artists who are putting everything they've got into their career. And tip number 3 is don't have a long intro on your track. A lot of artists have temptation to put a long intro on because they know they've written such a good song that it is worth the wait, and it adds more anticipation and more build up and a better experience for the listener. However, think about it this way. The curators have thousands and thousands of tracks they've got to listen to in a day. And there's only so much time in a day to get through them all. So they will skip pretty quickly when they're listening to those tracks. So if they skip through maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and there's no vocals come in or nothing's really happened in the track, they'll just skip and move on. So don't have a long intro, get into the track quickly, especially if you haven't been on a Spotify official before. And the same goes for the length of your track. Don't release 7-minute, 6-minute tracks. You need to release maximum of 3 to 4 minutes. Sometimes we've had tracks added that are only 2 minutes, 20 seconds long. So make sure that it is a reasonable length of track so they can get all of the way through it if they really like it. And tip number 4 is make sure you have a genre that fits into their playlists. If you look across Spotify, they have very specific genres. When you go into the Spotify for Artists, which I'll mention later, they have a list of genres that they cover. And that means that if it's listed, they have playlists for it. We see a lot of artists come to us saying, I'm a hybrid of 2 genres and I don't quite fit into a genre. Then the curator is going to have a problem on where your track fits. So make sure that your genre is simple. Once you get some credibility as an artist and you've got yourself on a few official playlists, then you can experiment with the genres. But keep it simple in the early stages and make great music for one simple genre. Have a look at the playlists that are on Spotify right now. Look for the biggest playlists that are blowing up and getting the most streams, and find one and then write music for that playlist, and then you'll have the best chance of getting added onto that playlist. Tip number 5 is get featured on as many music blogs and publications as you possibly can. This adds so much credibility to your CV as a musician. So if you imagine that they are listening to all of these tracks and reading the pitch of the track that you've submitted, and you will find that you'll get better success rate if you could say, I have been featured on Earmilk, Clash, DIY, Dork, and those kind of places add credibility to you, and they will take your track more seriously. Maybe they'll listen to a little longer of your track before skipping, or they'll just add you to a playlist because they know that you've had such good feedback in the past that of course this must be a good track. Now, for most press, you'll have to hire a music PR company. But if you can't afford that, use something like SubmitHub, or watch our video, which I'll link below, on how to get featured in major music blogs. And that will help you, without spending a penny, get featured on those blogs and into the right places. And tip number 6 is build up slowly. Okay, you didn't get a Spotify official playlist on this release, but all is not lost. You can get added to user curated playlists, and you can get the streams from these playlists, as well as triggering the Discover Weekly algorithm. And what happens is you get the streams from the playlist, and Spotify will watch to see how people are reacting to your track. And if the listeners like the track and add it to their own playlist, or go back and listen again, you'll get pushed out to more Discover Weekly playlists, and you get all those organic streams. I'll link below our blog post on how to pitch to user curated playlists. And once you get on those, you will add more credibility to you as an artist because you'll have more streams and you will be favored by the Spotify algorithm. And tip number 7 is use Spotify for Artists. It's currently in beta at the moment, and it means that nobody is using it. So use it to your advantage. You can use this to submit to the editors your track and make sure that they listen, and write the best pitch you possibly can. And go back and watch our other video on how to get added to Spotify official playlists using Spotify for Artists, and that will tell you how to fill in the form and be able to give yourself the best chance of the editors taking notice and listening to the full song. So as soon as you finish your track, get it to your distributor and push your distributor to get it uploaded to Spotify for Artists. And you need to pitch at least 4 weeks before the track is out. That will give the editors the best chance to get around to listening to your track, because they want to add fresh tracks that have just been released. They don't want to add a track that's been released for 2 months. So get on it straight away and get submitted. And tip number 8, the final point, is a bit of a secret hack. And that's collaborate with an artist who has already been added to Spotify official playlists. Now, this could either be a collaboration or you pay them to be on your track, because you know that they have curators who are watching their artist profile to see if they release again because they like the artist. And that gives you an amazing chance to get on a Spotify official playlist. And then once you get something like New Music Friday with that artist, you can put into your pitch that you've previously been on official playlists, or you might even get a curator taking notice as you as an artist. And that means you will get momentum and get more and more playlists and more streams. And if you do have to pay that person, it will definitely be worth the investment. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more music marketing videos like this, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.